Here it comes.
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about.
How to deal with hecklers when public speaking? Let's do it. It's already hard enough presenting, and then you have a heckler derailing what could be hours, days, maybe even weeks of all the material and things that you're gonna present. And that's not to mention the time that you spent rehearsing. As terrifying and annoying as it may be, we could learn a thing or two from those that have gone through it and not only diffuse the situation, but add it to your presentation. And who to better learn from than the great late Steve Jobs himself. You may have heard of him, the guy that led a small mom and pop company called Apple. You know, the same guy and company that brought you the thing that maybe you're viewing this video on. The Mac, the iPhone. For those of you who don't know, Steve was quite the showman. He'd obsess over every detail, from the contents of the presentation, to the lighting on the stage, to the music, to even how the products were presented out of pocket. Every detail was under his careful eye. And who could blame him? He really transformed the industry and ushered in a whole new way in how we interact with technology. And he poured so much detail into these presentations that eventually people started calling them Steve Notes. Get it? You know, play off of keynotes. Interestingly enough, I was perusing through the good old interwebs, and lo and behold, I managed to find a heckler at one of Steve's Steve Notes. This was back in 1997 Worldwide Developer Conference. They held what was called a fireside chat, in which Steve was accepting Q&A, and this heckler took it upon himself to really challenge Steve. As background, during this time, Steve just came back from being ousted at Apple. So it's been a few years, but during that time, he made use of himself. He kind of founded a pretty nice other company called Pixar, as well as another computer company called Next. Yeah, let's cut to the clip.
Mr. Jobs, you're a bright and influential man.
Here it comes.
It's sad and clear that on several counts you've discussed, you don't know what you're talking about. I would like, for example, for you to express in clear terms how, say, Java, in any of its incarnations, addresses the ideas embodied in OpenDoc. And when you're finished with that, perhaps you could tell us what you personally have been doing for the last 7 years.
Don't know what you're talking about? Ooh, shots fired. My goodness, jeez, salty. So before we go blasting the poor guy and hating on him, there are two sides to every story. I did a little bit of sleuthing, and this gentleman here, he was a consultant from Sun Microsystems, and apparently after Jobs came back, he did a little bit of a cleaning across the company. So he arbitrarily, well, maybe not arbitrarily, but he did shut down a lot of projects across the company just to streamline all the operations. And as you can tell, it ruffled a few feathers. Of course, Steve is gonna respond back in a big way. Without further ado, why don't we get back into it?
You know, you can please some of the people some of the time, but
Nope, the audio did not cut out there. What just happened is the pause. The pause is there for you to digest, analyze, and reflect on what just happened and to prepare you for a response. It's one of the most powerful nonverbal cues that a presenter can possibly use. Yeah, I like rhyming. The thing is, once you set yourself up with that dramatic pause, every other word thereafter has a bigger emphasis, right? Dramatically, what you bring to the stage now is going to break through. Of course, this has to be done right. So let's just see how our buddy Steve reacts to it, shall we?
One of the hardest things when you're trying to affect change is that people like this gentleman are right in some areas. I'm sure that there are some things OpenDoc does, probably even more that I'm not familiar with, that nothing else out there does. And I'm sure that you can make some demos, maybe a small commercial app that demonstrates those things. The hardest thing is, how does that fit in?
Here we go. Steve then goes in and diffuses the situation. Right? He totally disarms, and how he does that is he agrees and he goes on the heckler side. This way, the conversation is a little less hostile, and in front of the audience, they don't have to eat that hate popcorn, and drink that haterade. But Steve's not done quite yet. Let's tune back in, shall we?
How does that fit in to a cohesive, larger vision that's going to allow you to sell $8 billion, $10 billion of product a year? And one of the things I've always found is that you've got to start with the customer experience and work backwards to the technology. You can't start with the technology and try to figure out where you're going to try to sell it. And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room.
I'm just going to butt in here.
I've got the scar tissue to prove it.
Full screen me. What a great move. So Steve goes in, he neutralizes the situation, and what he does now is he brings the conversation and the thoughts up a level. The key thing here is to reframe the conversation. Steve pulls you away from that micro detail to focus on the macro idea. He's like, everybody, let's look at the bigger picture. In this case, let's talk about the customer experience. And it's that higher level inspirational thinking that really gets an audience going. And of course, he doesn't even stop there. Let's jump back in.
And I've made this mistake probably more than anybody else in this room. And I've got the scar tissue to prove it. And I know that it's the case. And as we have tried to come up with a strategy and a vision for Apple, it started with what incredible benefits can we give to the customer? Where can we take the customer? Not starting with, let's sit down with the engineers and figure out what awesome technology we have, and then how are we going to market that. And I think that's the right path to take. I remember with the laser writer, we built the world's first small laser printers, and there was awesome technology in that box. We had the first Canon cheap laser printing engine in the world, in the United States here at Apple. We had a very wonderful printer controller that we designed. We had Adobe's PostScript software in there. We had AppleTalk in there. Just awesome technology in the box. And I remember seeing the first printout come out of it and just picking it up and looking at it and thinking, we can sell this. Because you don't have to know anything about what's in that box. All we have to do is hold this up and go, do you want this? And if you can remember back to 1984, before laser printers, it was pretty startling to see that. People went, whoa, yes. And that's where Apple's got to get back to. And, you know, I'm sorry that OpenDoc's a casualty along the way, and I readily admit there are many things in life that I don't have the faintest idea what I'm talking about.
I call this the setup. So in the setup, Steve shares his experience. And as he mentioned, he was talking about the scar tissue to prove it. And as a little bit of background, the scar tissue that he was referring to might be about the Macintosh. Way back when he started Apple, and when they released that first Macintosh, it didn't really quite work out that well. And because of that, he learned a lot, but he used that as a point to really reinforce the fact that he wanted to show everybody his vulnerability. And as he goes on and he admits a few other things, he's drawing the audience in more, slowly winning them over to his side. But knowing Steve, it just doesn't stop there. So let's go, giddy up.
A whole lot of people working super hard right now at Apple. You know, Avi, John, Garino, Fred, I mean, the whole team is working, burning the midnight oil, trying to, and people, you know, hundreds of people below them, to execute on some of these things, and they're doing their best.
Steve, can't stop, won't stop. He takes it a step further, and he praises. He's not a one-man show. He outright calls people out on the team and says that we're all in this together. Let's praise others that are burning the midnight oil and trying to make the best product out there. Wow. Like, you can't hate on a guy for giving praise and compliments to others. You'd be a dirtbag. Yeah, nobody wants a dirtbag. Damn it, Steve. You're buttering up the audience way too much. How are you going to have any left for your toast? Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let's continue on to the final tactic.
Some mistakes will be made along the way. That's good, because at least some decisions are being made along the way. And we'll find the mistakes, we'll fix them. And I think what we need to do is support that team going through this very important stage as they work their butts off. They're all getting calls, being offered 3 times as much money to go do this, do that, the valley's hot, and none of them are leaving. And I think we need to support them and see them through this and write some damn good applications to support Apple out in the market. That's my own point of view. Mistakes will be made. Some people will be pissed off. Some people will not know what they're talking about. But I think it is so much better than where things were not very long ago. And I think we're going to get there.
There you have it. Last tactic is the close. Steve does something really interesting here, because the close I've seen also in stand-up or improv. It's related to the callback. He does it really well, where he essentially goes right back to the beginning when he says, you know, some people won't know what they're doing, and mistakes will be made along the way. So in a way, he kind of closes the loop on the whole conversation, right? The callback straight from the beginning, where he kind of bookends it and ties it neatly in a little nice bow. And this is a very powerful technique, because the audience has already known the precursor to all the things that have been said, and to really guide them in all of that reasoning, the facts and the stories, and then close it off is just that much more powerful. It just emphasizes the point even more. Steve could have really just stuck it back into the heckler's face, just rubbed it in. Well, based on his biography, he might have in private, but knowing that there's a big audience, there's a lot of eyes on this event, he obviously had to play the long game. Let's just do a quick rewind on all the tactics that Steve employed to really defend himself against this heckler during his presentation. The first one is the dramatic pause, right? Digest, analyze, reflect. The second one, diffuse. Find common ground with the heckler. Third, reframe the conversation. In Steve's case, he brought it from a micro detail to a macro idea. Number 4, the setup. And this is all about being vulnerable and welcoming the audience in by admitting some mistakes that you've done, throwing in some personal anecdotes, and building that rapport so that everybody in the room slowly comes to your side. Number 5, praise. Give compliments. They're free, they don't cost anything. And on top of that, it just feels good. Be kind. 6, close it off, right? Bookend that baby. We're talking about answering the first question and really making that final statement. Now, all you gotta do is smash that presentation. You got this. You know the material, that's why you're presenting. Don't get fazed by everyone else out there, you're the expert. Lastly, if you're still looking for tips in terms of public speaking or presenting, I highly, highly recommend Talk Like TED by Carmen Gallo. Great reference material, lots of tangible tips and tricks, and a lot of good references back to their other YouTube channel on some really, really great talks. And the other is Steve Jobs by Walter Isaacson. This one's the full background on Steve's ascension to Apple and what made him so legendary. Gets really deep into his psyche, and surprisingly, nothing's off the table. What are your presentation tips? List them down below, and if you have any other insights or experiences that you can share with everybody here on how you handled a heckler during your presentation, or hey, if you're a comedian or if you do any type of live shows, like how did you keep your cool and diffuse the situation and maybe improve it? Would love to know. Thanks again for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, learned something new, or found something insightful, please show me some love with a few of these. And if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button and check off that bell so you can receive more notifications on kick butt material, such as what you've just seen. And apart from that, I'll see you in the next video.